Okay, so I figured I'd take a bit of time out in order to make a guide showing you how to install OMods and executable mods for Oblivion with Nexus Mod Manager. Now, you may be thinking, oh, well, Nexus Mod Manager can handle OMods. Well, it's supposed to be able to, but I can never really quite get it to work. It'll crash. It'll install the actual OMod itself as opposed to unpacking it and reading the script and doing the script install. Or I'll double click it to install and it just won't do anything, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. The reason I don't use Mod Organizer anymore is because in order to install the Oblivion script extender plugins and get them to work, you had to actually have them in the data folder. So you still had to use Nexus Mod Manager when using Mod Organizer, which is a bit of a pain. And the reason I don't use Oblivion Mod Manager, which installs OMods, and Nexus Mod Manager is because Nexus Mod Manager only knows which mod it's overwriting if that mod was installed with Nexus Mod Manager. So if you installed a mod using Oblivion Mod Manager and something that you're installing with Nexus Mod Manager is going to overwrite it, it won't know exactly which mod it's overwriting, which can be a bit of a pain in the ass, as you imagine, due to incompatibilities and certain files needing to be overwritten and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is why I don't use Mod Organizer to play Oblivion, but I do use it as a way to install OMods and mods that are installed via executable like immersive interface. If you know how Mod Organizer works and you know how, or a little bit about Oblivion or Skyrim modding or anything like that, you may be seeing where I'm going here. But if you don't, just stick with the video and I'll show you what I mean. Now, immersive interface, not many mods come as executables, but immersive interface I like, and I use it to replace Darnified UI because I do not use Darnified UI because I use a controller, and a controller doesn't really play well with Darnified. So I use a couple mods in conjunction to kind of replace Darnified UI. So an executable mod is not really a common thing that you're going to see, but you will see them. And this method should work with Wirebash/Bane mods, as long as you treat basically Wirebash the way I'm treating Oblivion Mod Manager, which kind of gets me into what you'll need for this. So you will need Oblivion Mod Manager, despite the fact that we're not really going to be using it to install directly into the data folder. You will need it. And I'd recommend the full manual download. And you will need Mod Organizer. If you already have Mod Organizer for like Skyrim or New Vegas or Fallout 3, you will still need a separate instance or installation of Mod Organizer for Oblivion. I recommend the full manual installation archive because you can just run it wherever you extract it, but if you want to install it, feel free to. I won't really go over how to do that. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just run the installer or extract the archive. Oblivion Mod Manager needs to be extracted wherever the Oblivion executable is. So I'll show you that real quick. I'd recommend the, like I said, full manual installation. And I'm going to extract that. Then when I have here the executable and all the files that go along with it, I'll copy them into where the Oblivion executable is. So as you can see, I already have it installed here, but normally you just paste them in there. And let me delete these. And I'm going to X out of my browser here because the Nexus plays ads, so it'll kind of interrupt what I'm doing. Okay, so assuming you have Nexus Mod Manager, Oblivion Mod Manager, and Mod Organizer installed, you'll want obviously mods. I'll be using Immersive Interface for the executable example and Bomret's texture pack for the OMod example. And you're going to want to open up the Mod Organizer for Oblivion. And you can see this drop down box here. Click it and you can edit. And these are the executables that you can launch through Mod Organizer. So if you click edit, You'll see I already have Oblivion Mod Manager set up here. You're going to want to set this up as well. For some reason I can't remove it to show you it again, so I'll just show you with immersive interface. So to create a new entry, I click title and I type, and next to binary you see this box, click it, and then find the executable, Oblivion Mod Manager, or the mod that comes as an executable. Make sure start in is left blank, and I'd recommend unchecking close MO when started, then click add, and there you go. So let me close out of here. Now what you're going to want to do is, if you've just installed Oblivion Mod Organizer, you don't really need to worry about this, but if you already have it installed, make sure your data folder is clear. Now what you're going to want to do is, I'll be using the OMod for an example first, so what I'm going to do is run Oblivion Mod Manager through Mod Organizer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the OMod I wish to install. So for me that's Untitled Texture Pack. In case you're wondering why it's so important to install OMods a certain way, it's because usually they have scripted installers and there are certain options you select, and if you just extract the contents of the OMod into your data folder, it won't really work properly. So I'm going to double click on Untitled Texture Pack. If you're not doing this through Mod Organizer, I would recommend being warned about any conflicts, but because we're doing this through Mod Organizer and we're not actually installing it in the data folder, what Mod Organizer does is it installs the mods in a separate location. Then when Oblivion is loaded up, it, depending on which mod you have selected, it goes and creates like a virtual data folder for Oblivion to look in for mods. So basically, while we're doing this through Mod Organizer, it's not actually installing this into the data folder, it's installing it into the overwrites. So I don't need to be worried about any conflicts right now. So I'm going to click no. And normally this is where you'd select your options. Untitled Texture Pack, there are no options, so I don't really need to worry about that. Okay, when Oblivion Mod Manager is done, you can X out of it. And then all those files will be in your overwrite folder. We'll get back to that in just a second. Right now, you're going to create a new folder wherever you like to, and name it after the mod you're installing. So for me, that's Bomrets, and I'm just going to call it test. And then I'm going to right-click the folder, and I'm going to add it to bomretstext.rar. Add it to an archive. You're going to have an archive program most likely installed, but if you don't, you want to go ahead and install like WinRAR or 7-zip or something like that. And we don't really need to worry about where we're making these because we're going to go ahead and delete them in a second. So I'm going to go back into Mod Organizer, click on the top left here, install a new mod from an archive. Select the archive I just created, right click it, set data directory, and change the name here. And it says no game data on top level. When using Mod Organizer normally, that's a bit of a problem, but right now it's actually not a problem at all. So click OK. It's going to tell you file tree is not set up properly. That's OK. So click ignore there. Then open up your overwrite folder and highlight all the contents and drag it into the mod you just made. And close that out. Double click on that mod to make sure everything is in there by going to File Tree. And right now we're ready to archive it for installation with Nexus Mod Manager, and you can actually delete the folder and archive we just made. So to archive the mod that we just installed in Mod Organizer, we're going to open up the Mod Organizer folder. And then go to Mods, and then find the mod, Bomrets Test, double click that, highlight all the contents, right click it, and add it to an archive. You can add it to archive, then name the archive, or just right click and add it to Bomrets Test or whatever you name it. And we don't want this in the Mod Organizer folder. It shouldn't really make that much of a difference at all, but it technically could go ahead and increase load times if you plan on using Mod Organizer. So what we'll do is we'll cut it and paste it wherever you want to. Again, we don't really need to worry too much about where we paste it unless you want backups of your mods, because I'm going to be deleting this when I'm done. So I'm going to open up Nexus Mod Manager. It's going to give me an error. It usually gives me an error because I need to delete something in one of the folders because the mod didn't install correctly, but whatever. So I'm going to add a mod from File in Nexus Mod Manager, and that's going to be Bomb-Ret's Test. Right? So assuming I archived it correctly and everything's okay, it should go ahead when I install it and warn me of any overwrites. I'll sort that alphabetically there. So I'm going to double click it, and it should tell me that I'm going to overwrite files that already exist because I've already installed Bomb-Ret's texture pack and apparently Windows Lighting System. I'm going to click No to All for this, but if you do want to overwrite, go ahead and obviously overwrite files. But for this video, I don't need to overwrite anything, so I'm going to click No to All. And I actually use Windows 7 for Oblivion because it supports ENB, whereas 10 you can't get the ENB running. So I really don't care what I do with this installation since I'm on 10 right now. So there, I've just installed it through Nexus Mod Manager and everything is all set. Now I'm going to go over how to install executable mods, which is basically the same idea, just slightly different. Because instead of running the Oblivion Mod Manager executable from Mod Organizer, you're going to run the executable for the mod. So let me oops, I already have Oblivion Mod Organizer open. I did not think about that. So let me go ahead and open up Oblivion Mod Organizer. Click the drop-down box. I'm installing immersive interface, so you want to select the executable for the mod that you're installing. Click Run. Of course, make sure your overwrite folder is empty. I know mine is right now because I already dragged all the stuff out of there. I have everything set to run as admin, so it'll give you this prompt if you want to start it elevated, if you have things set to run as admin. So that's why it's giving me that. And I'm going to go ahead and select the options here. Alright, and what it's just done is it's placed all those files into the overwrite folder. And again, I need to, let me delete this here. I need to create a new folder and name it after, that's a shortcut. Anyway, I need to create a new folder and name it after the mod. And then right click that and add it to an archive. Oops, let me just go ahead and right click. Jeez. There we go, I've added it to archive. And actually I'm going to rename this archive, I forgot. I want to rename it test. Because I actually already have an immersive interface installed in Mod Organizer. So, close this out now. And then what I'm going to do is add the archive here. Right click that, set data directory. Make sure the name is correct. Again, no game data on top level is not really an issue here. Click OK, ignore this warning. And then drag the contents of the overwrite folder into the mod. Make sure that all the stuff is there, which it is. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of Mod Organizer now. But before I do, I mentioned that I'd go over just briefly, because I do not use Wirebash. I never install Bane mods. But normally, all you'd really do is, to my knowledge, again, I'm not really well versed in Wirebash, but you'd create a shortcut, an executable shortcut for Wirebash, like we did with Oblivion Mod Manager, and then we'd run Wirebash, and then the mod you just installed with Wirebash would go to the overwrite folder, and you'd be doing like the same thing we're doing. So yeah, I'm going to exit out of Oblivion Mod Organizer here. I'm going to delete this stuff. I don't need that anymore. Then I'm going to go into the Oblivion Mod Organizer folder, go to Mods, and then find the immersive interface test, and then archive the contents of that folder. Cut it, paste it, and install it with Nexus Mod Manager. And I already have immersive interface installed, so it should warn me that I'm going to be overwriting. That's, no. Okay. So I accidentally just uninstalled and reinstalled immersive or improved Fire and Flame. So what I meant to do is double click immersive interface test, and I'm getting a warning that I'm going to be overwriting immersive interface and ready, which is basically the same mod that I'm installing here. So I'm going to click no to all, but overwrite if you need to, obviously. And I'm done. Hopefully this wasn't too long of a video, and thanks for watching.